Hello, everybody. Cinephile Mike is here with a special report. I am here to talk about my top 10 hits, my top 5 honorable mentions, and my top 5 misses. Now, you're not going to hear me talk about this is the best and this is the worst of cinema of the year because, you know, what's the best to me is not going to be the best to you. And over the last couple of years, I've tried to get away from saying that was the worst movie I ever saw. Because you know what? Even sometimes a film that's not so great, look, when it was getting made, people thought that this was going to hit. Where does it fall apart? Who knows? You can't really point a finger or blame. So I like to look at it as these are the good ones. These are the ones that meant well. They didn't quite make the cut. So, first up, let's talk about those top 5 swings and a miss. First up, at number 5, I am talking about Vertical's A Sacrifice. Now, I talked about this one a little earlier in the year. The premise behind this film was really good. This was a suspense thriller about a father trying to save his daughter from a cult. And, what raised the stakes was that the father was, in fact, a psychotherapist who had been studying cult activity, this cult specifically. There were some decent performances by Sadie Sink as the daughter and Eric Bana as the therapist, but the film just couldn't commit to its plot. And when they built to a climax, it felt a little rushed and a little unearned. I almost feel like the script needed a little bit more of a look at. So that one's at number 5. If you would like to see A Sacrifice, it is currently streaming on Netflix. All right. Next, at number 4, we have Warner Brother Pictures' Joker, Folie à Dieu. Well, we've read the reports that, kind of like star Joaquin Phoenix and especially director Todd Phillips were kind of sticking up their middle fingers to the fans of the first film. And unfortunately, that was to its detriment. Personally, I was excited to see how Lady Gaga was going to present Harley Quinn, but that wasn't exactly what we got. And there were the musical performances, which I thought, those could be cool, but they didn't really serve the plot. In fact, the whole characterization and relationship between the two leads wasn't anything to provide real stakes, and we just got an attempt at a legal drama instead of the premise of what the film could have been. I, leave that to you if you'd like to watch Joker Folie à Dieu. It is currently streaming on Max. Now, at number 3, we have Liongate's Megalopolis. Francis Ford Coppola's opus that he cooked up for almost 50 years from when he first thought of it. And after years and years of development, hell, we finally got this portrait of what would happen if the United States returned to a government system akin to that of ancient Rome. A fascinating premise, and yet, upon watching the film, I can't really recall a film I've seen that was so overstuffed and underdeveloped at the same time. You have this strong cast of performers: Adam Driver, Natalie Emmanuel, Aubrey Plaza, Giancarlo Esposito, Dustin Hoffman. I could go on, and they were all wasted in this. It could have been something mega. Huh. Well, if you would like to watch Megalopolis, it is currently available for rental on most digital platforms. Okay. At number 2, another film I talked about earlier this year and thankfully was not referenced at the Golden Globes the other night. Number 2 for me is Sony Pictures' Madam Web. Now, of the 3 Spider-Man universe films we got this year, this one was the biggest miss, which is unfortunate because Madam Web is such a fascinating character in the Spider-Man universe, but this film wasn't sure what it wanted to be. Is it meant to be an origin story for Madam Web? Is it the origin of how we get the, Spider Woman trio? And a few scenes that teased what this film could have been. And again, like some of the other films I've talked about, you have very talented performers: Dakota Johnson, Isabella Merced, Adam Scott, Sydney Sweeney. And we get a half baked, underdeveloped idea that will leave you wanting more and going to want more because we are not going to get any more Spider Man films as far as we know. Madam Web, for those that are curious, is streaming right now on Netflix. And finally, and this one will probably be the most controversial one I discuss as far as a swing and a miss, my biggest missed opportunity. Not an honorable mention, not a top 10. Please don't hate me, but for me, It had to be Wicked Part 1 by Universal Pictures. I know. I'm in the minority. I hope you're still watching. Everyone loves the film. And look, for me, I didn't loathe it. I'm not loathing it forever. I just feel that it was a miss. I mean, look, there were some beautiful visual effects. Cynthia Erivo continues to prove that she's a star. And the last 15 minutes of the film is some of the best effects that I think we've caught on a film at all in 2024. I feel that the film had an opportunity to really explore some of these subplots about oppressed people and relationships. And I feel we just got a little bit more of a fan service film. Like, let's show you all those effects we couldn't show you in a stage show. That being said, I am still very excited for part two. I hope they're going to explore those themes a little deeper and see what we get. Obviously, if you would like to watch Wicked Part 1, it is currently still in theaters with regular versions and sing along versions, and it is available for digital rental and purchase, both the sing along version and the non sing along version. So, those were my 2024 swings and misses. Now, let's get to some of my honorable mentions. Make sure I get my right play card up there. There we go. So, at number 5, so these were the films that were some of the better ones. They didn't quite crack my top 10, but these were really, really good films for different reasons. So, at number 5, believe it or not, I got Paramount Pictures' Smile 2. This was a very worthy sequel to the first film. And, that is a rarity in the horror genre, let's be honest. This film really pushed the psychology of a horror film and played, also with the side effects of worldwide fame as a cautionary tale, and really allows its lead, Naomi Scott, to play this pop star a la Taylor Swift meets Lady Gaga and the newest victim to have to deal with the smile entity. And you have supporting performances with Ray Nicholson, Rosemary DeWitt, who are incredible. And this film will really have you thinking to the very end, what's the twist and where can the franchise go from here? So this was a fun cliffhanger. If you would like to catch Smile 2, if you haven't seen it yet, it is currently streaming on Paramount Plus. Okay. Number 4, A24. Not surprised that A24 is here. They're going to be here a few times, I believe. But A24's Maxine. Now, this was a wonderful conclusion to Ty West's X trilogy for me. Now, while it did lack some of the narrative coherence of the first two, and the ending is a little wonky, it's still a joy to behold. And following Maxine into the 1980s with all the flair of the time period is a journey to go on. Mia Goth proves to be a powerhouse. What's always been fascinating about the character of Maxine is that she doesn't want to be the traditional final girl we are used to in films of this genre. And when we get some really enjoyable supporting performances by Kevin Bacon, Giancarlo Esposito, Elizabeth Debicki, and the fun Easter eggs that Wes plants in the film with these great callbacks to X and Pearl, it's definitely worth seeing how Maxine becomes a movie star. If you would like to see Maxine, it is currently streaming on Max. All right. In the number 3 honorable mention list, we're going to go back and give Dakota Johnson a little bit of a break. We have Sony Picture Classics, Daddy-O. Here, this interesting flick, written and directed by Christy Hall, puts Johnson and Sean Penn in a cab as a fare and driver, respectively, as they discuss everything from the traits of a real New Yorker, the dangers of moving from cash to cashless payments, and even to the ins and outs of what relationships should be and what makes them work. The film, one of my favorite, cinematic tropes is when you can tell a film in real time. So the 100 minutes is this 100-minute cab ride. It really allows Johnson and Penn to craft fully rounded characters and have an honest conversation that shows that sometimes all we really need is a human connection, which is something we strive for and don't always get. So for Daddy-O, if you are interested in watching it, it is currently streaming on Netflix. Okay, my number 2 honorable mention. We have Warner Brothers, funny the numbers align, Juror number 2. Now, this suspense flick really plays with the audience as we're introduced to the aforementioned Juror number 2, played by Nicholas Hoult, as he is on the jury for a trial that puts a presumably innocent man on trial for the murder of his girlfriend. However, as the trial gets underway, we learn that this juror who was just trying to get out of jury duty so he could be home with his expectant wife is harboring his own tragic history and has a little more connection to this case than he realized. And now, what's interesting, what Eastwood does with this film is he reveals one twist early on. So you kind of wonder where this is going to go, but then that's not the last, you know, twist he's going to twist for us. So definitely a fun one to watch. If you would like to watch Juror number 2, this film also, like some of the others, currently streaming on Max. Okay. Finally, at number 1. This one is a fun one, and I'm staying in the horror genre. But at number 1, we have to talk about Shudder's Late Night with the Devil. David Desmalkian, in one of the best found footage horror films we have, in my opinion, since the Blair Witch Project 25 years ago, really gives all the chills as we watch his Jack Delroy host his nighttime show on Halloween and see a take on, cult activity that pays homage to some of the great horror films of the 70s, especially The Exorcist, and has such amazing design elements that you really feel the time period from the opening shot to the what the hell just happened at the end. Ingrid Torelli as Lily, one of the guests on the show, gives an incredible performance that will leave you stunned, and I highly recommend that performance. So if you'd like to catch Late Night with the Devil, it is streaming. You have two options on Hulu or AMC Plus. All right, so those were the honorable mentions. Now, here's what you've been waiting for. Let's get into the top 10. Now, there are a couple of films that I have seen since January 1st that I wish I'd seen last year to make this list. I'm looking at you, Wallace and Gromit. I'm looking at you, Seed of the Sacred Fig, incredible films, but I saw you in 25, so you did not qualify for my 2024 list. But those are two good films to check out, and those reviews will be coming on the channel in award season 3 reviews. But what hits the film for me is the film had to be released in 2024 for me to see, and I had to see it in the respective calendar year. So that is where my 10 come from. I've been sure you've been wondering, Mike, get to it. I sat through your misses, I sat through your mentions, get to your top 10. I'm there. Number 10, IFC Films Ghostlight. Now, this film has stuck with me since I saw it. It's a wonderful example of how the arts can be therapeutic to help you, anything life may throw at you. Part of the wonderfulness of this film is the authenticity and the performances by the family, as they are a family in real life. So to see them come together and move on from a tragedy by, putting on a performance of Romeo or Juliet with a small community theater troupe will fill your heart with joy. There's a delightful turn by Dolly De Leon as the theater company's Juliet, who provides a humor and a frankness that's ultimately refreshing. You got to check out Ghostlight. It is currently streaming on AMC Plus. All right, coming in at number 9, A24 is back with Civil War. This disturbing but excellently shot suspense flick. I mean, look, it took an English, a British writer and director to craft a cautionary tale of what would happen if we were to truly not learn from our history and be doomed to repeat it, where the USA would be at war again with itself based on an unfair imbalance in the political system. Now, look, while a very controversial film, there were powerful performances by Kirsten Dunst, Haley Spaney, a disturbing presence by Jesse Plemons that absolutely made this, for me, a 2024 must watch. And you will be gripping your seat as you see the true nature of humankind, how it truly comes out in some tragic and sad ways. If you would like to catch Civil War, it is currently streaming on Max. Okay, at number 8, we have Netflix's His Three Daughters. This New York set drama brings estranged sisters played by Elizabeth Olsen, Natasha Lyonne, and Carrie Coon back to their childhood home to be with their father, who is on hospice care for a limited time. In a truly honest portrayal of grief, these three are forced to, come back to this small setting and, see the emotions flare and fly. And, those familial struggles are really felt in this claustrophobic environment as, they honestly kind of let it all go, how one another's choices have impacted them, challenges them. And, Azazel Jacobs really has a wonderful story to be told here that may hit a little too close to home, depending on your familial situation. His Three Daughters is currently streaming on Netflix. All right, number 7 is the action superstar we didn't know we needed, but we got in June Squibb's enjoyable performance in Magnolia Pictures' Thelma. As a nonagenarian who gets scammed over the phone, Thelma is not one to take it sitting down, and she straps on her bag, puts in her hearing aid, heads to her friend Ben to get a scooter, heads to another friend to get a gun, and plans to go to Van Nuys, the 80 however many miles it is from her California home, to get her money back. Thelma's a wonderful comedy that does not shy away from the honest moments and tragic moments that sometimes hit, as people get older, but also the importance of how we should be treating people of a certain age. And remember, don't just count them out. Older white hair does not mean incapable. Now, if you'd like to watch Thelma, it is currently streaming on Hulu. Okay. Number 6 is a film that crept in for me right at the end. I saw it on the 31st, and wow. Number 6, the journalism ethics film September 5, giving us an inside look at the control room of the ABC sports team who's forced to cover the hostage and massacre at the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich. This film is an intense trip. Pulsing scores and constantly moving cinematography make you feel that you are in the room with the new program manager of ABC Sports, as he weighs the ramifications of what happens based on what decisions he'll make as to what news should be reported and what shouldn't be. This ensemble film is up there with the likes of other journalistic flicks like Spotlight, The Post. I recommend September 5. It is currently playing in limited release and expands into wide release in theaters on January 17th. Definitely one to take a look at. All right, we are halfway there. Are we ready for the top 5? Here we go, coming at you. At number 5, we have Searchlight Pictures' A Real Pain. In his third feature film as a writer and director, Jesse Eisenberg's film to watch is anything but its title. Definitely not a pain at all, reuniting two estranged cousins as they go on a trip to tour the Holocaust history in Poland and visit their grandmother's old home. Jesse Eisenberg as, the more reserved, pragmatic, a little bit anxious one. Kieran Culkin, the pot-smoking, free-willing drifter. I mean, they're a perfect combination as we follow them on this journey. And it's also worth noting that this film, is set in a country that is unfortunately known for so much pain. What the filmmakers wanted to do, Eisenberg and his team wanted to show that there's more to the country than this. So there's some really gorgeous cinematography. This rapid moving dramedy gives you kind of new memories to put within this setting. I recommend A Real Pain. It is currently in select theaters, but also available for digital rental or purchase if you would like to catch it now. All right, number 4. Oh, and you tell that I like my horror films. Number 4, I have to say, is movies body horror The Substance. Demi Moore is a revelation as an aging celebrity who will do whatever she has to do to maintain the life she has built, even if it means birthing a younger self that she has to share her life with every other week. And playing that younger self is a wonderful and powerful turn by Margaret Qualley. Writer and director Coralie Fargiet crafts a powerful tale about, an industry that is obsessed with youth and beauty and see just what happens when it goes a little too far. That cautionary tale and creates a third act that, in most people's opinions, especially mine, would probably even make David Cronenberg cringe a little bit. This slick and stylish cautionary tale will stay with you. If you want to watch The Substance, it is currently streaming on Mubi. All right, coming in at number 3. Focus Features is Conclave. Edward Berger directs an intense thriller that doesn't shy away from exposing the underside of the religious hypocrisy as we follow a very strong political 72 hours within which we see Ray Fiennes as the dean of the College of Cardinals having to weed through various conspiracies as he facilitates the papal conclave to elect a new pope amongst a group that really seems to favor personal agendas more so than what it is meant to be in a position of the power. Excellent supporting performances by Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, and Isabella Rossellini keep the tension high. If you would like to watch Conclave, it is currently streaming on Peacock. All right. So my number two and my number one, if you've been following my videos, they were kind of arguing back and forth in my head. I didn't know which one was going to land where. I reviewed them back to back on December 31st and January 1st. But finally, after much push and decision, number two, the runner up to my top film of the year, is Neon's Honora. Mikey Madison's Annie, the Vivian Ward for a new generation, a dancer who falls for one of her patrons. She chews through the scenery and, in some cases, her co stars as she stands up to the Roshan oligarchy that threatens the happy life she wants to live with her new husband, Vanya. Through the streets of Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, Sean Baker spins a pretty woman for the 21st century and gives another slice of life, presenting a character who strives for a better life than what they are given. Now, if you would like to see Honora, it is still playing in select theaters, and it is available for digital rental or purchase on most digital platforms. Okay, so if you've been following me, you know what this number one is. If not, you're probably wondering. Well, here it goes. Finally, my top film of 2024, my number one, the film that has stayed with me the longest in 2024, Amazon MGM Studios' Challengers. The love triangle that is made up by strong performances by Zendaya, Mike Faist, and Josh O'Connor will really have you wondering throughout who is the master puppeteer and who is having their strings pulled as we follow these three tennis pros through the ups and downs of life and love over about a dozen years. Director Luca Guadagnino presents a non-linear narrative that keeps the audience wondering how this is going to end, if it does, while we observe the action, sometimes from the perspective of us being the tennis ball that is getting shot back and forth over the net as we have a pulsing 80s synth-like score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross to keep us off balance. If you would like to watch Challengers, it is currently streaming on Amazon Prime. All right, so there we have it. Those are my top 10 of the 2024, my honorable mentions, my swings and misses. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I missed one? You think there was something that should have been there? Let me know. As always, you can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms, and let's talk about movies. Award season is up and running. The Golden Globes just happened. That's why I waited a couple days to post this now. We're in the awards, thick of it all. So much good stuff. But let me say, until we meet again, this is Cinephile Mike saying, take a break and watch something new.